Richard Hart recently tweeted this update about Pulsechain, and every YouTube influencer made a video saying Pulsechain will launch in mid-May. Just like any other time, Richard Hart gives a possible launch date. Some people are just chasing the hype, and the keyword here is target, so this definitely shouldn't be perceived as some kind of official date. And since I mentioned hype, the hype is something good in the crypto space, and in fact, this is what drives the price up, and FUD is driving the price down. These are the facts. It is also a fact that the purpose of this video is to drive neither of these, because I think there's enough from them both, but instead serves as a slap in the face to everyone who doesn't have realistic expectations about Pulsechain and PulseX and sends them back to earth, because too much hype can also hurt the project. So in this video you'll see why I don't think Pulsechain will be launched this month, and what I have to say to the average investor, which is the core of every project, so he doesn't get burnt and never come back. So let's go ahead and jump in. The Pulsechain sacrificing phase took place in July 2021, and $670 million were sacrificed. Probably everyone already knows this and it is important, but what is also important is the total amount of wallets who sacrificed. 42,000 people gave their trust to Richard Hart and sent their money to his personal wallet, which many people believe is the sacrificing address. And even if it's not in fact his personal wallet, it is the wallet of the project at least, so he definitely got access to the money. And I don't think anyone has any doubts about that. So in exchange for their money, people received sacrificing points that have no value at the moment, with the expectations of an airdrop of PLS tokens, from which they can then make more money. Even more interesting is the fact that Pulsechain was not even built at that time. So after the sacrificing phase, they started building it, and version 1 of the testnet went live 2 months after in September 2021. While building it, they realized it might be a good idea to make their own decentralized exchange, and this is how PulseX was born. Richard Hart ran a sacrificing phase again with the same conditions, which started at the end of the same year. This time he raised $1 billion, but more interesting is the fact that the total amount of wallets who sacrificed for PulseX are more than 130,000, which is more than 3 times the wallet for Pulsechain. So what does that tell you? That tells you that the project is building hype, the community is growing, and the people who missed the Pulsechain train don't want to miss this one as well. So more than $1.6 billion combined were sacrificed, and the pressure on Richard Hart to launch Pulsechain and PulseX gets bigger and bigger as time goes on. When you have the money of more than 100,000 people locked in for months, and your project is not launched yet, you have to provide constant updates to these people, otherwise they will freak out and start spreading FUD. But what do you provide when you don't have any major updates? Well, small ones of course. But the problem with the small updates is that no one gets excited about them. So more and more people start asking questions that you don't really have answers to them. So you either have to avoid them or give an unspecified answer. But you can do that for only so long, and eventually you have to give a launch date. So people keep asking when Pulsechain, and soon turned into weeks into months, and in the meantime we got Pulsechain testnet version 2, and at least people can see the progress and that something is actually building behind the scenes. But of course this doesn't change the fact that more than 40,000 people sacrificed their money almost 1 year ago, and they want to see this thing up and running. Also we have these people who sacrificed for PulseX who are also getting impatient, plus all other people who found out about Pulsechain and PulseX when both sacrificing phases were over. So there are this massive amount of people putting pressure on Richard Hart on daily basis, and we all remember how many times he said in his live streams that it's almost done. And probably the mainnet will be live in a few weeks.
Had a call with the devs, and PulseX is basically done.
It's not too bad. I mean, it should be okay. I'm not too worried about it, really.
And what I mean by all that? I mean that this is probably the next date that will not be realized. The whole thing is very complicated, and it requires a lot of time and labor. Many mistakes and issues can happen along the way, and it can be finished and launched in a few weeks or months, especially if you want to build something that is safe and it works properly. I don't blame Richard Hart because I understand them completely, and I think he is doing a pretty good job keeping the momentum going. I know the feeling is not great having your money locked in for so long, and at that time if you participated in the Pulsechain sacrifice phase, you didn't know that you won't have access to your money for almost a year, and adding the fact that you don't actually know how much the PLS and PLSX tokens will be worth, it makes you feel even more concerned. And since I mentioned the value of these tokens, I think it's time to move on to the next topic that I want to cover, and that is the hype. As I said earlier, the hype is very beneficial for the project and it's one of the main factors that drives the price up. However, I see way too many people overhyped and talk about 10,000x, making the whole community rich and this kind of stuff. Well, this certainly not gonna happen. I mean, everyone to get rich. I prefer to be realistic and be hated by the moon boys than be one of the many who talks about Pulsechain and PulseX is your ticket to the moon, and not mention anything about the downside risk. I think this is truly unhealthy for the community and especially for the average investor, because many people will lose a lot of money as well. I'm not spreading FUD and I'm not bearish. Exactly the opposite. I'm also bullish like many of you who are watching this video right now. But it's just impossible for everyone to cash out hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's just insane if you think of it this way. Crypto is so unpredictable and no one knows what the price of these two tokens will be. The community is quite big and I can definitely see the short-term price appreciation. But if we don't see mass adoption for some reason, the long-term goals of 10,000x will vanish pretty quickly. I think the YouTube influencers who support these projects are way too biased, because they most probably sacrifice for Pulsechain and PulseX, and maybe even for both of them, and all they want is the price to go up. Well, I think that constantly talking about the upside potential and not mentioning anything about the downside risk can damage the project, because this is how the disappointments hit the space. I understand that people talk about 10,000x because Hex almost done that, but they don't take the fact into account that it took him almost 2 years for that. I also understand that Hex is not a blockchain, and the popularity of Richard Heart is much bigger now, but Pulsechain is not the first project that aims to solve the issue with the Ethereum gas prices. If we take for example some of the main Ethereum competitors, you can see what Cardano did back in 2017. If we take an average price of 2 cents, in the course of 2 months it reaches the price of around $1, which represents a 50x. But if you didn't sell and hold for 4 years, you could have made 150x return on your investment. Solana is another very strong competitor of Ethereum, and back in 2020 didn't do anything exciting. But if you bought at an average price of 60 cents and hold until the all-time high, you could have made around 400x return. And I also want to mention that this is a very big project with a giant team, it's been around for almost 2 years and still face some issues and people complain about it. Another example could be BNB, which launched back in 2017 at around 10 cents and around half a year later made 200x. Here, if you hold this token for 4 years, you could have made 7,000x return on your investment. BNB is ranked number 4 by market cap. It's been around for 5 years now, has a massive community, and still wasn't being able to achieve 10,000x yet. Also, don't forget that all these returns are close to impossible to be made because of the fact that not many people will hold for that many years without selling, and buying at the absolute bottom and selling at the all-time high is almost impossible. Another thing you definitely have to consider is at what conditions these tokens reached their all-time highs. In all cases, they were moving high in price when Bitcoin was also moving higher. None of them have their own market cycle and the whole market is determined by Bitcoin. I know that Hex usually outperform Bitcoin when we are in a market conditions like the ones that we are currently in, but I'm not talking about some short-term price movements, because Hex is obviously in a downtrend like the rest of the market. What I'm talking about is moving significantly higher in price and potentially putting an all-time high. This is only available when Bitcoin is above the bull market support band and it doesn't show weakness like how it is right now. Of course, we can't determine the potential price movement of a token, considering only one factor because it will be highly irrelevant. Because in the case of Pulsechain and PulseX we have an airdrop for example. This leads me to another example of the ApeCoin launch, where holders of the Bored Ape Yacht Club and Mutant Ape Yacht Club NFTs got airdropped a bunch of ape coins. And do you remember what happened? The price went parabolic right after launch, reaching $40 mark, and shortly after that crashed below $7, making so many people upset. So why did that happen? Well, it's pretty simple. All these people who got their airdrop tokens sold them right away and caused the price to go straight down and never go back to its previous levels, even at this pump around the metaverse land sale. Of course, this example doesn't have exactly the same conditions, because the ApeCoin tokens were airdropped for free, and for the Pulsechain and PulseX airdrop you had to sacrifice your own money. However, I think the selling pressure will still be high simply because of the long-term period people didn't have access to their money. Even if all the people who sacrifice believe in the long-term potential of these projects, I'm 100% sure that many of them will choose to lock in some gains at launch and lower their risk. This is absolutely normal, and anyone who is trying to convince you otherwise is just simply one of the people who think these two projects will go straight to the stratosphere and they will never go down. Many people are just entering the crypto space and they are complete beginners, and they probably heard about stories of people who made millions out of $100 or $500 investment. These people are now hearing how investing in Pulsechain and PulseX can make you a 10,000x return, and they are probably already calculating how they will put $100 and turn them into 1 million. Well, I'm here just to tell you that this is probably not gonna happen, and don't get disappointed by that. However, the community is very strong and the founder has another project that withstood the test of time and did exceptionally well, despite the fact that many people called him a scammer. So there's a very high chance of Pulsechain and PulseX to make you a lot of money. But my point is to not to be over optimistic and always consider the downside risk, because it's impossible for everyone to make money. Some people have to lose. Never bet the family farm on a crypto project, as the price can go down significantly on any given day. Lastly, I wanna say that I'll be happy if Pulsechain and PulseX make a 10,000x return, and I never said that they won't. But bear in mind that it won't be as easy as you probably think, and it's gonna take quite some time. I also wanted to say a few words about the Pulsechain versus PulseX debate. which one is gonna outperform the other. But I don't want to overextend this video, so share with me down in the comments if you want me to make a video about that. Also, if you appreciate all the research and work that goes into making a video like this, it will be very much appreciated if you gave the like button a gentle tap and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more interesting content in the future. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.